What is going on in the sport of boxing? Turning the back, taking a knee, looking for a way out. These are all signs and implications of resignation in the sport of boxing. Let's talk about it. What's good, YouTube? It's Stormybman, and I'm back with another video editorial. Before we get started, I'd like to say shout out to the LDBC, the Lions Den boxing community, and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. In today's era of boxing, we have a lot of fresh faces and newcomers, talented lot that can compete at the top of the sport for as long as their will and desire to be successful holds up. Being a champion in this age of championship boxing requires a lot more than just the skill set. It requires a lot more than popularity. It requires a great deal more than just talent. The ability to sustain, to defend, to also be able to reign is something that the young fighters of today will have to learn to separate themselves from being champion, former champion, contender, and potential champion. As we begin to put this together, what we're seeing today in this era of boxing is the separation far before someone actually begins to become certified in the sport. We have a number of fighters who have far more knockouts than they have fights. And if you don't understand what that means, that means that they've knocked out a succession of opponents that found them in what I call showcase matches that allowed them to look good, all the while protecting a record and not necessarily gaining an experience, capability, and revelation of what a fighter may really have on the inside. It is not until a fighter is tested that he may be able to show you exactly what he has. And that, if it's positive, can be stored in the toolbox for title and championship reigns. Too many times in the last few years, we have seen potentially good fighters challenging for world titles and petering out before they get the opportunity to learn how to overcome. We see guys taking the knee. We see guys turning their backs in competition, fierce competition, when the heat just begins to rise during a match. When they begin to face opposition, we're seeing men not confident in their ability, not capable of going beyond where the tide has gotten a little rough. These type of fights and experiences within a fight give a fighter and his camp all the information that they may need once the bout is over and they return to their respective camps. Sometimes a kid just doesn't have it. And it's not necessarily because he never had it all along. It's the fact that they weren't brought up in a manner of which that's inside gets a chance to be cultivated. Building blocks. It's like a foundation before trying to build a home. If the foundation is weak, fragile, or compromised, what will happen is even though you can build the structure upon it, you're going to have problems. You're going to have cracks. You're going to have unsettlement. You're going to have what may even rule to be a place that is uninhabitable. Funny how the correlation with boxing can be very similar. When a fighter faces that adversity, when he's set before a challenge, having the wherewithal to stick to it, to persevere, to want to overcome, the ability and capability to overcome become factors. We're seeing now, recently, fighters who are trying, but they're not letting it fly. They're not risking it. They're not putting it on the line. They just kind of make up in their mind, I think I've gone as far as I can go, and maybe I'll just come back and try it another day. That's not necessarily the way when you're talking about a championship caliber fighter, because sometimes in a championship fight, in order to retain your title, you may have to come back from the edge of defeat. You may have to get up from a knockdown. You may have to overcome a hurt hand. You may have to overcome a closed eye, a broken jaw. These things happen in the sport. But what are you going to do if you're faced with those circumstances? The reason why you want to put your fighter in as a prospect against various types of opposition, because you want to get a feel for how he's going to react. Those reactions, as a coach, you will know how to coach your fighter through those circumstances. And if he happens to go through the match and find himself being the victor, you've overcome an obstacle and reached a new level. However, if there's a setback, at least now you know what you have to work on when you return to the gym. These things show themselves consistently. It's those who are smart enough to recognize it, and the fighters who have the will and desire to get better, not just be complacent, relying on what has brought them this far, and to build upon what you have. Wouldn't it be great to not just have a set of encyclopedias, but also to have thesaurus for references, and also prefix books that will bring you through the source material you have. And in boxing, you could never have enough knowledge. I'm an advocate of fighters should at least pay attention to the sport. We have a number of participants today who don't even watch the sport. Sure, they might watch a buddy if they've got colleagues in the sport, but guys who actually look at the styles, look at the matchups, look at the way that styles mix or don't mix, and learn from others what's advantageous for them. You know, the guy who sits up and watches a match and says, I like the way he moved and spent and turned that guy around. I might try that. I might add that to my repertoire. You know, or the way he catches those punches off his gloves and he's able to slip and counter. You know, looking at fights where you could see or envision yourself facing the very circumstance that you're observing. That's when you can become a complete fighter. Not just putting hours in the gym, putting miles into the road work, getting your conditioning up. You have to think boxing. have to sleep boxing. You have to live boxing. Fighting once a year or every 12 to 16 months is not going to get it for you. You need to be in there and you need to be active. And being active is all about getting your timing down, keeping your conditioning up, and making sure that you're prepared. The sharper that you are with each outing, the better head start you can gain on getting out of the gate with each fight. It's important. Some fighters seem to feel nowadays that they have all the answers, but they don't realize they're just raising more questions. For fighters who do not fight frequently, even as a champion, fighting once a year is really not the way to go. Do you realize how many young men and veterans are out there waiting for the opportunity to separate you from your title? Think about it. It happens all the time. We're looking at fighters who don't always want to risk it. They want to enjoy and rest on their laurels. But as long as you're at the top of the sport, you're going to have challengers and you're going to be challenged. The test comes when you're able to retain, when you are able to defend what you feel is rightfully yours, and you find reasons to continue forward outside of the purse. See, at some point you have to be one who is willing to challenge legacy, challenge history, challenge the division, the sport itself, the naysayers, the detractors, or as they say today, the haters. This is what can keep you riding the wave of success in the sport of boxing. Not the taking the knee, turning your back, and saying no mas. Think about it. To dare to be great is to want to put yourself in a position to do so. Fighting regularly, taking stiffer opposition, a threat to your title or to your contention will give you that incentive to want to fight harder, to want to endure more, to want to have a breakthrough. These are the tools that are called intangibles that you may have to reach into your box at some point during your career. Don't let it be later, let it be now, so you will be equipped to face what the future has to offer. I like to see young fighters go out and try to do the impossible. But one thing I don't like to see is fighters squander all of their potential by not being active, not challenging and testing themselves, and not setting goals that are just beyond reach, where they can reach for it, and even if they stumble, even if they fall, to get up and to go for it, to grasp that holy grail. What are your thoughts about this? Let's discuss it. You're seeing so much of what I'm talking about happen in the sport today across the divisions in the sport of boxing. And fighters need to pay attention. This is a lesson for all. This is Stormybman. This is all I have for you at this time. Please leave comments and let's discuss. For the year is 2021 and we are looking for big things in the sport of boxing. Until the next time we speak, everyone stay safe, peace, and happy new year.